Welcome back to another episode of Motivate with Coach Camp. I, of course, am your host, Coach Camp, and we are down here in these amazing studios of SRP with Mr. Derek Michaud. All right, folks, I know you guys have been following me. You've been keeping up the last couple of weeks here. We have been highlighting some people with different varying levels of autism. I had my 12-year-old nephew on in the first episode, as you remember, and the next one was Mr. Keegan Riley, and they got to share a little bit about what their journey, their personal journeys have been like. And then they also gave you a little bit of feedback on, maybe what to expect or how to deal with somebody that maybe thinks or sees the world a little differently. Don't always be so quick to judge. They were fantastic on all of those issues. So today I really wanted to capstone something. I wanted to bring in an individual that can highlight maybe the different pathways people could take to seek. I don't want to call it treatment. We're going to really find out what it's called or how to diagnose, how to better live a more productive life, because that's really what it's all about for everyone. Quality of life, being able to find out where you fit in this world. And that's not easy for any of us, if we're being quite honest. So before we jump into our conversation today, I am going to take a quick step away break because I need you guys to hear from the folks that make all of this a possibility. And that would be my sponsors. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to have a quick second to let you guys know how much it means to me that you are my sponsor. SRP Studios, The Real Hernando, The Rhythm Section, Hardwick, Heating, Cooling, and Air Quality, Estes, Grading, Hodge Homes, Adair, Honey Farm, Miss Hippie Eats, Phones R Us, Ross, Sod Farms and Landscaping, Ivy Rain, Women's Clinic, Tonic POS by Tyler Young, and Coffee Central. Thank you guys so much for being a sponsor. If you'd like to be a sponsor, go to my website now, motivatecoachcamp.com, and click on the button. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, and we are here now with Miss Rebecca Treadway of the ARC here in Northwest Mississippi. Welcome to the program, Miss Treadway.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, look, I know it's tough. It's at the end of a day. You've probably been at work all day. You've been doing all kind of stuff. Coming down here and having a moment to speak with my viewers and listeners, I know that they really appreciate it because I know I really appreciate it. So here's the deal. I want to jump into this and talk all about the ARC and then what the program is exactly and then what it offers. But the one thing that I know is that when a person is drawn to something, there's a reason behind that. There has to be a foundation. So I want folks always to know who my guest, who they are, where they came from. So share with just a minute about where Miss Rebecca grew up, what your family life was like, what your influences were.
Okay, so I was brought up in a little tiny town in the southern tier of New York State. It's in the foothills of the Allegheny Mountains. My town is called Friendship, New York. Oh. There were 2,000 people that lived there at the time that I was living there. It was so far into the country. I know when you say New York, people think that I lived in New York City, but I didn't. Yeah. It's the far other side of the state. It was a great way to be raised and brought up. Brought up near farms and farming industry. It was really wonderful. Yeah. So my parents were teachers in the school that I went to. It was a kindergarten to 12th grade school. My graduating class had like 24 people in it.
Oh, wow. Very small. Is this a public school?
It was public school.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
yeah, that is small.
My dad was my high school history teacher for 3 years, and he was my coach of, in basketball and in soccer. So It was really a tight-knit, small community. It was a really great way to grow up.
Did you have brothers or sisters?
I have two sisters.
Younger or older?
Older.
Oh, so you're the baby.
Yes, I am.
Wow. So, that always fits into a person's personality. I'm not a psychologist, but I can tell you this. The older folks always tend to have this tougher road. The babies always seem to have, like, if they had several siblings, not just one sibling, but like a couple siblings, they got away with a lot.
Yeah, probably. That's probably true.
That's okay. It's normal. We have that at our house as well. So then growing up, what were some of the influences or things that you were around that kind of, gave you that servant heart? Because to do what you do, and we're going to get all into that in a second, there's some things that has to happen, I think, in a person's life to see that, hey, there's a bigger world out there. I want to be a part of that and help make it better. That's
really true. My parents were very active in local community organizations like the Masons and the Rotary and our church, and we were constantly volunteering. There were weekends where the Rotary Club would go up at the rest area, and they would serve drinks to just people passing by that stopped to eat. And, we would constantly be doing meals for other people. Just definitely, I was brought up in a servant-led heart.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, that's one of the things that I've tried to stay focused on with my kids as they grew up, was to understand, look, we've been blessed. We are okay. But there are people out there that are not. And so if they're not exposed to that and realize there's a bigger need beyond where we are right now, our world could be small when we're young, then maybe you grow up and you don't always see that or think about that. So it does sound like that your parents kind of put you on a strong path. So then when you get out of high school and you graduate with 24 or 23 other classmates there, where does Miss Rebecca go from there?
So I went to college. I'm actually, by my college, I am a music teacher.
Oh.
And so I went to Baldwin-Wallace Conservatory of Music right outside of Cleveland, Ohio, where I studied there. And then after I graduated, I came down to Memphis, where I became what they call an ORF music teacher. And I was teaching at Grahamwood Elementary, and it was great. I had a wonderful cohorts that I worked with. I loved my job. It was absolutely fabulous. I thought that I would be a music teacher for the rest of my life. And then God laughed at me, and he gave me this wonderful child named Ethan Treadway, who has autism.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't continue. Although I was teaching in Memphis, I was living here in DeSoto County, because when I came down, I met my husband, and he's a longtime DeSoto County resident, so I moved over here. So then I transitioned from teaching in Memphis to teaching in DeSoto County, and we just realized in Memphis and DeSoto County, there's just no help for people with children with disabilities.
What year was this, if you don't mind?
I guess my son Ethan was born in 2005, and so like 2007, 2008, I transitioned to teaching here. And then I stayed a few more years, and my husband said, you should really just go ahead and step away from teaching and try to start this nonprofit. And if
How
it
many
doesn't
years
work,
had you been teaching?
17.
I was wondering, because it sounds like you've been doing this for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And to step away from a career like
Yes,
that,
it
that's
was
a bold
tough.
move.
Yeah.
That's a very bold move.
I cried a lot when I was trying to decide to do it.
I could see, but that's dedication, and that tells me too that when your heart starts to pull you in a certain direction, it's almost impossible to say no to it, right?
Yeah.
So didn't mean to interrupt you, but it was like I sounded like you've been doing this for a while. It's like, wow, that's dedication.
Yeah, we just knew that something had to change. There had to be something else. And so it wasn't me alone, though. There was a whole group of other parents that were like-minded, and we got together, and a few of our parents were a little ahead of me, and they had chartered a chapter of the ARC Northwest Mississippi. And then I came on board, and eventually I was hired on to be the executive director, and we had very little money in the treasury. And so I quit my job with that very small amount of money and just started fundraising like crazy.
What year was that?
That was 2015 was when I started this job, in June of 2015.
Okay. So, wow, that's 10 years.
10 years.
How about that? So a decade has passed. How fast did that go by?
Oh my gosh, like
blink your eyes, right?
Eye, yes.
Yeah, that's how life seems to happen, obviously. So when you make this decision to cut ties with music world, your husband obviously is all on board, it sounds like.
Yeah, he was very kind and really helpful.
And for you being a music teacher, I'm just saying this, you correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a coach and I kind of co-relate whenever you are in a teaching position, plus I teach at college, there has to be a certain level of patience and understanding, because everybody has different talents. I'm just speaking broadly, especially when it comes to music, because look, if you were trying to teach me something right now, I'm going to test the patience out of you, because I have no idea what I'm doing with music, right? But you have to have that inside of you, and the ability to see someone's talent that maybe they can't even see.
That's correct.
And so connecting some of these dots, it does feel like, though, that you had been groomed for 17 years to be able to take on something that, in a lot of ways, what you just said, didn't have a lot of foundation to it. So the ARC itself, I did do a little bit of homework. My teachers are always so proud. I come in contact with them from time to time. They're like, we don't know why you didn't do homework when you were in school. That would have helped us all out. But I do it now. So from what I was able to find out, the actual organization itself started in the 50s. Is that correct?
That's correct. In Washington, D.C., like the national chapter.
Okay.
Yes.
And so I saw that. I was very intrigued, because that tells me that there was some understanding and knowledge of intellectual delays back in the 50s. And I'll be honest with you, growing up in the 80s, my mom and dad and everybody around, if you acted up or acted out a certain way, you just got whooped down here in Mississippi.
Yeah.
It was a little different, because they didn't understand.
In New York too,
yeah, I worked in New York, so I didn't know. But down here, it was like, it's a behavioral issue always. But it turns out that there are certain cognitive issues that a person may have, and it doesn't have to necessarily be autism, where it creates this storm in your brain to act out in different ways. And sometimes that's just a compulsive manner that you do, or there's other mannerisms that you may take on, and it wasn't always understood.
That's correct.
So in the 50s, this foundation starts and it starts to grow, how quick does it branch out, or do you know the history of it?
Well, I think that the 50s and 60s, it was really like gathering momentum. And at the national level, the ARC really what they do is they lobby Congress to get better laws and better protections and, just helping people at the federal level. But really quickly, all of the states chartered chapters. And so every state except I think 2 or 3 has a state ARC. And so ours is in Jackson. And then from there, your local chapters can charter around them. And I'm not really sure how fast they moved, but it's a testament that we're still standing strong.
Absolutely. You're looking at 75 years now.
Yes, crazy.
My math is pretty decent right now, so we're not using Common Core. That's what it is. And so it's grown over the years, obviously. And then when you come along and you see that there's not that in DeSoto County,
right.
And I'm surprised to hear that it took to 2014, 2015, because I know SPED programs have been in place. My son he was in a few of the SPED programs in high school. I had known several other friends that had been in those. So I don't want to relate that if it's not that, but it sounds like that there was a version of understanding, and then there was the ADA version of it, where it was kind of accommodations. Like, for instance, at college, there are some students that file for, they have different varying things, but one of the common requests is to take tests in a room by themselves.
Right.
Free of distractions. And that's a normal one. But then there have been other ones where people needed a lot of visual learning tools where we might teach it in the classroom. They needed visual tools to be able to pick up the information. So it just depends on the individual, of course. So whenever this thing comes along and you decide, hey, I'm going to jump into this, how old was your son? You said he was born in...
He was born in 05.
So he's 10 years old at this point.
Yes.
All right. And obviously that was a big proponent in you taking action.
Right.
So what were you seeing at that time that he was either lacking or not getting that you wanted to make changes happen?
That's a really good question. There was a study done in like the 2000s or maybe a little before that, where they asked a huge group of autistic adults how many people they could name as their friend. And the answer was 0. They could name no people that were their friends. And so that was the first thing that we were combating at the ARC, was that we were trying to create strong social programs. And if you ask anybody about the ARC, they're going to say that's what we do. That's where our foundation is. So we started all these social clubs. We started exercise classes, art classes, anything at all that we could get the kids together to socialize. And it is so, like this past Friday night, we had our adult social club. 25 people signed up to come, and there had to have been 60 there by the end of the night. The need is so huge, and they all love being there. They're so happy to be together. They're with their friends. And, we'll bring in volunteers from the high schools just to be like typical people, but they don't even want to be around the typical people. They just want to be around each other because they love each other and they don't get to see each other that often.
There's so much to be said about community. And look, I understand this. Being a college teacher, being a coach, there's a lot to be said about diversity, and that diversity doesn't have to be ethnic. It doesn't have to be religion. It is the diversity of thought and mannerism and culture. And whenever you bring those things together, you can learn from one another. But there's also something about unity of understanding that you're not alone. You're not by yourself. And if you're struggling with something in particular, how easy is it for you to feel like that you're the only one on earth? And nobody else understands where you're coming from. And so being around other folks that see things the way you see it or are struggling with the same things you're struggling with, there's empowerment there. So for you to see that, obviously that took some intuition on your part. But I think also that music teacher probably came out in you. The woodwinds probably want to hang out with woodwind people. I'm just guessing on that one. But so when you start to put this together and you didn't have any money, you just decide to take action. What would you tell somebody right now that's out there seeing a need, but they're scared of all the ways they could fail? How did you see past all the ways you could fail and say, this has to take place. We'll figure it out when we go?
Yeah, I think I had a really great board member that helped me think through it and just say, if someone spent every hour of their day really thinking about how this could be successful, there's so much power in that there's no way we'll fail. And I say that really is the truth. When every minute of someone's day is, we cannot fail, we must find a way, and you're just talking to people all the time. Can I get in front front of the Chamber of Commerce? Can I get in front of the Rotary Club? Who can I talk to say, this is what we're trying to do? We need donations. We need help. We're going to do this little dinner. We need people to come. And it just works out. I mean, I'm a big faith believer, and I believe that if God has put you on a mission, that's the mission that you're supposed to be on. And
absolutely.
And he's going to put it in front of you.
That's what faith is, right? Is taking the step towards something that's not certain. You don't have a guarantee toward it.
That's
I
right.
mean, that is in essence what faith is you're trying to create or do something that maybe you have no clear thought to, but you just know it is the thing you're supposed to do.
Yep.
And I think that plays to everything in life. Miss Ann Lunsford, are you familiar with her?
I am. I love Ann.
Yeah, she's been on the show, and her story is very similar in that she saw a need for these ladies coming out of prison, and she didn't know how to help them at first. She just knew she had to help them. And she just started taking them into her own personal house.
I know. And then God burned down that house and gave her an even bigger house.
I know. And then for whatever reason, and bless you, Miss Ann, she put me on the board of directors with the Precious and Pink Ladies. I'm like, here we go. Let's go motivate these girls to get out of here and get some stuff done. But that's another example. She brought me into it. Her enthusiasm and love was like, how is that not infectious? Positivity breeds positivity.
That's right.
And if you get around negative folks, of course you're going to think negatively. So I like the fact too that you pointed out having people see this as this only can pass. This is only going to be successful. We have to move forward. There's so much power in that.
Yes.
And it's easy to get sucked into thinking about all the ways something can fail. But if you start thinking about the only way you can figure this out is that it's going to be successful, you'll be surprised how much you can accomplish in life. So let's talk about autistic spectrum a little bit, if you don't mind, because I think that whenever I spoke to my nephew, and this was off the camera and stuff, but one of the concerns he had was being seen differently. And when you put a title to something, sometimes it can be misconstrued or it can be misinterpreted. But I also know this personally, when you can put a name to something, you also feel like you have power to either manipulate that or fix it, whatever that is. So whenever he got diagnosed and then understood that moving forward, there were things he could do to make his world more manageable, less complicated, that was huge for him. Mm-hmm. So let's talk a little bit about the spectrum, because people hear about autism, they hear about the spectrum. What could you explain to us?
Okay, so there are a bunch of really smart doctors that get together and they come up with a manual called the DSM, the Diagnostic Manual, that tells doctors and people who diagnose what level or how to identify a person with autism. So there are 3 levels of diagnosis: level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 used to be called Asperger's syndrome, but they took that name away, I think mostly because it was named after a Nazi scientist.
Was it really?
Yeah.
I did not know that, actually. Yep. This is educational. This is the educational part.
So there were people loved that autism, that the Asperger's, like they wore it like a cape, like a superhero cape. Mm-hmm. And so they were really sad that went away. And I still read articles and see people like making reels about how they wish that they hadn't have done that. But for the most part, I feel like that's died down. Yep. And so level 1 people typically are only affected by their social interactions with other people. Now, I'm going to say typically, like I'm just telling you in general how these things work.
Everybody's brain's different. When it comes into psychology, there's no this or that, black and white. There's always all the gray area.
Yep. So normally it's just social interactions. When you hit level 2, it's going to be speech and social interactions. So level 2 people, sometimes they rise up into they're almost like 1. Some of them can kind of flip over to being level 1. And then other level 2 people are closer down to level 3. You know a level 3 person because they usually have a caregiver with them all the time. So they have someone that's like holding their hand, or they're never really far away from them. Those are our friends that need help with their everyday living skills. They do not have language skills, and they just need care all of the time. So I feel that's our group of folks that really have been ignored by the media, that whose parents are really having a tough time. My heart goes out to all of our level 3 individuals and their parents as they struggle to help their child live in this world that, is really difficult.
It's tough for anybody that's, if you're not struggling with any kind of mental disabilities, it's tough for any person. Yep. And then whenever you have all of the different levels of cognitive delays, it becomes an issue that's not just for that person, but for the caregivers. And so I want to kind of blend to that. So you see the 3 different levels. What was it with you that as a parent, you recognize, all right, so if I'm having these different things that I'm having to struggle with, there has to be other people. So I know that there's two sides of everything. If you're a caregiver, you have the person that is getting care, and then the caregiver themselves. They have to have tools to work with.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about that on the other side of the coin, the individuals that are the caregivers of people.
Yeah, so when you find out that your child has a disability, you go through all the steps of mourning. It's just so difficult. So the parent has to, accept the fact, like people try to deny it. Oh, this is not happening to me, or, oh, this is horrible. And it takes parents a minute to kind of get through that and, pull themselves up, and then they hit the ground running. Yeah. So like at the ARC, we really want to help parents to empower themselves to really understand all of the services in the community. I love to sit down one-on-one with parents and say, all right, so tell me what your child looks like right now. Mm-hmm. Tell me all of the obstacles that you're facing. What do the behaviors look like? What are you trying to figure out? And then help them be calm. The big thing I wanted someone to say to me when I had a young child was, everything is going to be okay. And no one would say it. And so now I say it to all parents, everything is going to be okay, because they just need to hear that, because it just feels like... it's reassurance. Yes.
And it goes back to positive thinking.
Yes.
Right?
And so... once you can sit down with the parent, help them be calm, kind of list out all of the problems that they're having, and prioritize what needs to be worked on first and what can be helped down the line, and that what waiting list should I get on, because nothing is easy. No therapy is easy to get to. Yes. And so how do I manage those waiting lists? Who do I talk to? How do I jockey for a better position? And then how can you come and be a part of what we do at the ARC to help your life be better?
I think that there is a lot to be said for support groups for people. Like, I can say this. I've had friends that had to care for elderly parents and they had dementia, Alzheimer's, you name it. And one of the biggest struggles was knowing how to respond. They didn't know how to respond whenever their family member would act out or do certain things. They didn't have the tools within them. We're all human. We fall into frustration, and it's an emotional reaction a lot of times, which more often than not would be the wrong type of reaction, but they always felt guilty about that afterwards. And when I spoke to them about it, it was like, we just didn't know how to stop that thing from happening. In the moment when it happens, that knee-jerk reaction.
Yes.
And so are there steps, are there classes to be able to teach parents, all right, so when this starts to happen, maybe do, and you have like 3 different options. I'm snowballing it out because I don't really know.
So unfortunately, we have a saying in our community that if you've seen one child with autism, you've seen one child with autism.
Because they're all different.
Yes, so they're all so drastically different. Mm-hmm. But if the type of therapy that parents want to get in line for is called applied behavior analysis, ABA therapy. And it is really a very kind of hot button topic with adults that have gone through ABA when they were younger. A lot of people are not a fan of the therapy.
Interesting.
And so I want to speak with like reverence to them. Like, everyone has their own personal journey and their own personal experience. I am a believer in ABA therapy. You just have to make sure that you have the right therapist working with your child. And I can sit down with a parent and say, describe to me the behavior that you're talking about, and let me give you 3 suggestions of things that you might try. But I'm not a therapist, and so it's really best to try to get to a therapist where they can really look at the behavior and see, like, what's the antecedent, what's causing it, why are they acting this way. And I do think as a parent is waiting on a waiting list, the more they can research, the better. There's such a wealth of information out there on YouTube where you can watch ABA sessions being done. You can see, like, Googling your child's exact behavior and researching what other people have done to try to change the behavior.
That is a great comment. You're absolutely correct. We do live in a different world. Back when I was growing up, you had to go to the library, use the Dewey Decimal System, figure out some microfiche, maybe read a newspaper article. But you're right. There is a lot of information on the internet. AI is even making that a little easier a point. Obviously, you just type in a handful of things, and then it just pulls up this cacophony of things. You're like, wow, how is this even possible?
Yeah.
But I think that sometimes people do feel probably overwhelmed about what to trust or what to like. But to the point, when you're being specific and you say, hey, these are the exact issues I'm having, What are some suggestions? I think technology has gotten a lot better where it can better pinpoint that.
Yeah.
And the other thing you said that is just so, man, it's so good to hear, and I'm so glad you said it, and that is finding the right therapist. You know, it is this simple. Unfortunately, it is this simple. It seems like I'm making it too simple. It's not. You can hear the exact same thing from 3 different people, but hear it differently every single time. The way that a person delivers information matters as much as the information, in my opinion. Whenever I teach class, I recognize that my students, some of them may hear everything I say and pick it up, but then I can also see the blank looks on others and know that I have to kind of back up and say it a different way. I'm saying the same information, but sometimes it's delivered or interpreted differently. And I think that's the same thing for parents out there, and they have to recognize that's the same thing for their kids. I almost said student. I either call them students, players, but they're kids. I get them all together. It's just like they're all bunched up. But so going into this, whenever you guys started this program here in Northwest Mississippi, how many were involved at that time, and where are we today? I want to hear a 10-year span on this.
Okay, so let me say it in a couple of different ways. When I started at the ARC, I was the only employee, and I had an office inside of a psychologist's office. I had like a one little desk office. And so today we have a 7,000 square foot building,
wow,
and there are 10 full-time employees that work with us. So, I mean, that tells you the span of how big we've gotten. I would say that we work with, all the time, we're working with about 150 to 200 people. But then I would say also, how many lives do we touch in the course of the year? It would be thousands of people.
Oh, wow.
So like we
That's
do
nice.
Trainings, teachers or training police officers, training businesses. So we're constantly out talking to people about how to interact with people with disabilities, how to employ people with disabilities. And so our reach gets huge, with those single touches.
That is so true. And I want to make sure that I point this out too, because I was not aware of this. And I think that, not that I'm aware of everything. I'm not aware of everything. But whenever I started researching this a little bit for you, before you came in, I said, I don't guess I've ever heard this terminology. And so with your organization, it is intellectual disability and developmental disabilities. And so those two are very different, but then they could be together at the same time, correct?
Right. So a person that has autism or lots of other types of disabilities, because at the ARC, we just don't serve people with autism. So It would be Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, anything. So anything that affects the way the brain processes information is a developmental disability.
Sure.
And so now a person can have a developmental disability and not have an intellectual disability. So that is labeled.
Can you explain the difference on that?
Yes.
One? Yeah.
So what your IQ is determines whether you have an intellectual disability or not. And you really can't, like some disabilities automatically, they have enough research on them. Like, for example, Down syndrome. Most people with Down syndrome have an intellectual disability, so they just already go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. But with autism, it's not that way. Some kids have the intellectual disability and some kids do not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
that, and then of course all that comes through with testing, and then over time, can that change? Does a diagnosis change, if you want to call it a diagnosis?
Really, no. If you have autism, you have it for your whole life.
It's good. Is it usually pretty much the same level? Or can that get better?
No, it can get better.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can improve through practice and skills. I would say a lot of our adults that have level 1 autism, they don't want to change. They like the people that they are. And a lot of our level 2 people do, too. Yeah. It's just that as we look in from the outside as parents or the community, we see how much they're struggling. And we perceive it as struggling. Not oftentimes they don't perceive it as struggling.
Yeah, right.
And they're happy the way that they are, and that's fine. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
It's just some of our people that are very low functioning, they need more help than others. And I know that our high functioning people get frustrated when we're talking about how we need to change things to help them. They don't see it that way. They want society to change, and so they can stay the same. So we're just still at the beginning phases of understanding this. And when more and more people grow up and that have autism, because there's so many kids right now, they're going to be in the workforce soon. And so we're going to have to develop more ways to negotiate back and forth so we can have a productive workforce.
That's a great point. I was actually about to kind of direct it towards what are some of the goals that you set for these kids as they grow up, and then what are some of the options, or what are some of the pathways they could take. And so you kind of hit on that. So whenever they are growing up and you're working with them and they're coming and they're part of your group, do you start to recognize what their capabilities or possibilities might be, and then be able to help them once they enter those ages to go into the workforce?
Yes. So we have a partnership with Mississippi Department of Rehabilitation Services, and we teach pre-employment transition skills. And so we have, if you're age 14 to 21, we have classes where we are trying to help you get ready to enter the workforce. And it doesn't matter what your intellectual capacity is. We have lots of people that we have trained that have intellectual disabilities that are working great jobs and doing amazing work in the community. And so we just want to get everyone that's that age bracket, we want to meet them where they are and help build their skill up.
Yeah.
So we'll do classes that meet either at school or at our building. We do one-on-one coaching sessions. We also, in the summertime, we just had 65 of our students working in 20 different businesses throughout the summer.
What type of businesses?
So let's see. We had the Nesbitt Blueberry Farm. We had a Holiday Inn. We had Olive Branch Pizza Company.
Food, hospitality.
Yes. So
interacting with public, obviously. And
yes.
That builds social skills.
Yes. So every time we send, like, for example, we'll say Holiday Inn, they give us their work shift times that they want the kids to be there. So we usually have 2-hour work shifts. And so they'll say how many kids can come, and we bring a special ed teacher in to be there with them. And so the kids get the schedules, and every week they can sign into the work that they want to do. They can do up to 20 hours of work per week. And then we pay them to be there. And then they get the experience of, working in that environment.
Yeah. Keegan, my guest that was on last week, in respect to when this episode's coming out, I spoke to him a little bit about growing up. I actually had the unique benefit of being his baseball coach when he was a little guy. Yeah. And I knew he was different. And at that time, I don't know that he had been diagnosed or not with autism, but he was just a cool kid and would say some of the funniest things to me all the time on the ball field. And I asked him about, when you started to get a little older, how did you know what you wanted to do? And his parents, actually, he talked about how very openly that his parents didn't understand some things about how he would react to certain situations and what his mind was thinking at the time, because it's hard sometimes to correlate if you can't see through that lens.
Yes.
And he just recognized, though, that he had a love and a passion for digital stuff. He was really good at it. And so now he works over at Channel 5. In their digital department. Don't get me to line on their stuff. I'm not a digital guy. He gave me the title, and it's in the other episode. I can't remember what it is now.
That's exciting.
But and it's proof. And he talked about this too. It's proof, though, that having hope and having people believe in you and push you. And we're going to talk about being treated differently in 2 seconds here. And not treat you differently in a way that you're not capable of stuff can create an atmosphere, again, of positivity that you can. And he said another one of his big concerns was never having a relationship, because he just couldn't. He had that social thing you talk about where
yes.
he couldn't present himself and talk to another girl. And he always wanted to have a relationship. Well, he's in a relationship.
Oh,
and I don't want
to
spill the beans. I think he's talking about getting married. But I don't want to. If he hasn't said that yet, I'm bad, Key. My bad. Don't let her watch that part right there. But just cut that part out. So talk about a little bit about that.
Well, I want to go back, if it's okay, for a second, because you were talking about, in relation to the other two guests, about the label. And so I having done this for a long time, I've developed an opinion about this that I want to share with parents.
Yes.
So a lot of times our high-functioning students, their parents will say, I just didn't want to tell them because I just wanted them not to know and just to try to fit in. And that, I have never seen that work. That has never worked a single time. It is always better at the right moment to share what is actually going on, because the majority of the time, once you explain it to the child, they're relieved because they have no idea what's going on, and it helps them understand. And you really do need to see your disability not as the DIS. It's not that. It's a special ability. So when we're working with our kids in the jobs program, you know how they ask you in a what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? is in a job interview, we always teach the kids to talk about their disability as their strength. And because you should not see it as something that's negative about you. It makes you unique and special. And so I think it's just parents have to come to it as a different way of thinking about what the disability is.
There's such a stigma to it, and I'm rationalizing, or I'm generalizing. Sorry, not rationalizing. I'm generalizing a little too much, but I think people do see things sometimes in their mind as a stigma, or they're embarrassed by it, and so then they think by avoiding it, it will not surface. And I'm with you on that. I think if you embrace something and recognize it for what it is, then you can move forward. And I'm using this is probably an elaborate analogy, but it's like a person that has a drinking problem or a drug problem.
We don't ignore that.
If they ignore it, it never gets better. They have to recognize it. Yeah. And of course, we all recognize it from the outside if it's your friends or family. And the only way that you're ever going to improve that situation is to address it. And for a person struggling with autism, there's another thing you just said. You're right. If they're looking through this lens and they don't understand why it's like it is,
yes.
The moment you start to explain that to a person, there's liberty in that. It is something that is freedom in your mind, that you understand why you're the person you are. I am going to jump on a large ledge on this one. This past year, I took a personality test.
Those are the best.
Now, Miss Rebecca, I am not one to usually sit on my phone for 10 minutes and sit there and click all these things. My wife sent it to me, and I'm like, all right, whatever. I had a few minutes, so I went through it. It took me about 15 minutes to finish. I got to tell you something. It was weird because that personality test was spot on. For the first time in my life, I understood why I saw things the way I saw them, the way I reacted to certain things. And it didn't give you a diagnosis, but it gave you a label of your personality.
Was it the Myers-Briggs? Is that what you did?
It's in my phone. Don't give me the line.
It gives you four different letters. That
so everything was like from a span of strongly agree to strongly disagree, and there's all these bubbles.
I'm pretty sure it's Myers-Briggs.
And you put yourself into whatever that thing is. And it said that I was in a 3% range of most people. It's an ENT.
Yes, it's Myers-Briggs. 16 personalities. Everyone should do that.
16 personalities. That's the one.
Everyone should do that.
And it would explain to, like, if this type of situation took place, why I would overreact or underreact.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow. And then it talked about the jobs that were perfect for me. Guess what? I had done like 5 of them. It's talking. It was being a professor. It was like all these things. I was like, these people are watching me. But you know what it did? It did give my mind some freedom to understand that it's okay, that it's just my personality. And honestly speaking, these diagnoses that we may give a person, it is also a part of their personality. Look, some of the funnest people that I've been around were folks that had Down syndrome, and it's just their personality style. Now, I've been around a couple angry Down syndrome folks too. Yes. They mad about all kind of stuff. They got a lot of opinion.
Yeah.
But that's just a personality trait that I think, there are commonalities, but everybody's different. Everybody's wired different. And so better understanding who we are and why we see the world we see it, I think does help us grow as an individual. So I think that's great. Parents definitely should talk to their kids about it.
One other thing I wanted to touch on that you said about like expectations, I always want to tell parents that you better set that bar so high. You feel like, especially if our individual is like level 2 or level 3, the higher you set the bar, the more you're pushing up, the more success that you're going to have. Because, I mean, if your bar is so low, like people will come to us and say, my child can't possibly work. Wrong. It's wrong every time. Mm-hmm. The bar is too low. And so when we put that bar up high and start pushing, the kids always rise to the occasion.
That's so good for everybody, because I'm actually doing a speech. By the time this airs, it have been done, but for Concord at their graduating, and I'm going to talk about for their graduation, fail big in life, go big.
Yes.
And if it's too easy, you're not growing.
That's right.
So you got to go big, and that's for every human being out there. And so I agree with you. If a person has some learning cognitive disability, push them and have them try harder, because in the end, they will get better.
Yeah, because failure is just data.
That's just data.
Yep.
That's right. So with your organization, let's talk a little bit about fundraising, because you mentioned that at the very beginning. And if there's one thing I can tell you, you could be a great person at a product. You could be a great person at an organization. Fundraising is its own animal. And if you didn't have experience with that, it takes time and sometimes a lot of failure to get there. So tell me a little bit about what the ARC does and how you guys raise money.
So we do a couple of different fundraisers around the year. We do a golf tournament in the kind of the spring, and then we're getting ready to do a 5K race that will be run in Old Town Olive Branch called the Happy Feet 5K. And then after that, we have a beer festival called Arktoberfest that happens at the Mississippi Ale House.
Oh, is that in? And that's in Olive Branch.
It is, yes.
Okay, yeah. Where is the Ark physical location? Is it in Olive Branch?
It is not. It's in South Haven, kind of behind Sam's Club on Elmore Road. Okay. We have a big sign. You can't miss us.
Yeah. So, and then not just doing the fundraisers, you guys also take donations, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So do you have like a way to go out about and
big donate button on our website?
Oh, well, then that makes it easy then.
Yes,
so you just hit the button and then you can
That's
put money
correct.
in it.
That's
so
correct.
whenever you guys are taking in money, do you have an annual budget at this point? And like, what are you thinking? I could speak to this a little bit. I'm with the Hope Center. And Stacy died, and we're always trying to find ways to raise money to be able to do things with the kids. And it's hard to have an operating budget because sometimes you don't know how much you're going to get in donations, and you don't know how many people are going to sponsor, but you have a base.
Yep. So one of the I was saying that I have a lot of staff who have a lot of really big ideas, and they're constantly, let's do this. Like two of my staff are going to do this book club that they're starting, and we also just got a grant to do a big garden project. And so all these things are exciting, but they cost a lot of money. And so we start them and they get really popular. And then we're like, oh my gosh, now we have to have more funding.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is tough sometimes to know how to keep the momentum on something.
I know.
You're right. Ideas are fun. And whenever you're thinking about how this could work, and like you said, you have the positive mindset of seeing how it can only be successful. But then there's the money thing.
Yes. Because we have this amazing idea and it's only going to cost X amount of dollars. Where are we going to get that from?
Yeah, confounded money.
Yes.
So if we could just find that one button where we could just hit and it's just automatic funding.
Yes, cash from the sky.
We need cash from the sky. So then looking forward, all right, so I like to try to cover a few different angles. I think we've done pretty good with the organization offers, how you guys go about your business and get donations in. So what do you see in the future? You've now been doing this for 10 years, so you pretty much have a really good database to look at.
Yep. So we really want to continue on. We see ourselves as having social programs. We want to continue robust social programs that are constantly changing to meet the needs of our community. We have a huge camp that's been going on for over 20 years, even longer than the organization. We took it over from a parent group. It's called Camp Bold. And we are constantly moving and changing that. I think we're going to make even bigger changes for next year. And then we have our jobs program side, which we continue to grow. We just got a brand new contract for a new program called ARC Works, which is for adults. And so people that have already exited school that have been trying to get jobs and can't quite do it. So they're coming back to us as we continue to help push them into the workforce. And then we really would like to start in the end a day program, which is for individuals that probably aren't going to be able to actually work, but they still need a meaningful way to spend their day. So that's where I think our next vision is going, like our 5-year plan is headed into that.
You know, we didn't hit too much on the adult side of it. What do you think the ratio is of adults that are part of your program versus kids?
Let's see. I would say that it's 1/3 adults, 2/3 students.
The students.
Yeah.
And is it just from DeSoto County schools, or can people come from other areas?
Now from all over the place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like in summer camp time, people will fly in and stay with their grandparents or aunts and uncles to come to the week of camp for their week of camp. We'll have people like bringing their nieces and nephews into work camp, because at camp, like a span of a week, we'll have 50 campers, and that means we have to have 50 counselors because the camp ratio is 1-to-1. And so kids come in from all over the place to do that camp with us.
To be a counselor, what do you got to do?
You are paired up with one of the campers, and you just do everything they do during the course of the day. It's super fun.
So let's talk about that then. Let's hit on the volunteer side, because I can tell you this, when it comes to getting people to be involved in something, they just want to know what the process is. I could speak to this a little bit exactly, because being on the Hope Center and working with them now for going on 3 years, I guess, we get a lot of folks that they come along and they're like, wow, this is really impactful. You're really having a big thing, but I don't have time for it. And it's like, you probably have more time than you realize because it's not that labor intensive. You don't have to come to every event we do, and you can be paired up with a kid and you can communicate. So what's that look like if you want to be a volunteer?
So on our website, there's a drop down. There's a program drop down, and then there's another one like how do I get involved or something. And under that, it says volunteer. And you click on it. If you're a student, you can click I'm a student, and you go right into where the volunteer signups are. If you're an adult, it triggers something else for us to call you so we can do a quick check.
Sure, you got to do some background checks out there.
Yes. And so then we figure out who you are, and then we let you have access to where the kids go in to sign up. And so every event that we have has sign up for volunteers because we really want to have the community there to be part of what we're doing.
Sure. And I mean, honestly speaking, whenever more people get involved, I think it also helps the broader spectrum of education. You start to understand things. And, you know, for a lot of folks out there, if you've not been around certain communities and you don't understand the process, you don't understand what they're going through, then I'm not even going to say you're judging, but sometimes it's just confusing. And so being a part of it also is a big part of eye-opening moments.
Yeah, because people, I don't blame them. I understand that when you are not accustomed to being around people with disabilities, you don't know how to act.
Exactly.
And so you have to, come in and watch us interact with people. They want everything that you want. They want to have friends and have interactions with people. Sometimes interactions just look a little bit different. So if you come on in and just watch other people doing it, you'll get a hang of it.
It suddenly becomes normal.
Yes.
And that's the idea. And if I had to say anything about from my nephew to Keegan and all the other people out there that I've met over the years, I'm a retired firefighter paramedic. So I've worked in different levels of communities, going to nursing homes and then going to special needs centers. In the end, it is the idea that we all just want to be the same. Everybody just wants this normal life. They want to have their style, their friends, and they want to be accepted. And what you're doing is God's work. It's actually something that's going to be long past your days. And I think that everybody out there, I believe it will be. Leaving behind a legacy that inspires the next generation should be all of our goals. And I think that this is something that is going to continue on and continue to get bigger. I mean, 10 years ago, you started with you and a desk. Yes, that's right. Super exciting. I can't wait for what the future holds. It's pretty exciting. I would agree. Was there anything that you would like to say as we draw to the end? This has been another, look, folks, I got to be honest with you. I feel like I should pay every single guest that comes in here a lot of money because I get so much education out of this. Is there anything you would like to leave my listeners, viewers with? And then how can they reach out to you, leave a website, all that? Okay, so the most important thing is if you are a parent of a child with a disability and you have never reached out to us, we need you to do it because I feel like we can help you. We can make your life better. We can help your child. So you should go ahead and reach out to us. If you are listening to this and you have a neighbor, a cousin, a friend that has a child with a disability, tell them about us. Our website is www.thearcnwms.org. And you can call our office at 662-510-8989. And anyone that you talk to could help you. And I will have all that in the show notes, so whenever they click on the icon, they'll be able to see all the stuff there, so you can get that information in case you didn't get a pen out and write it down. Shame on you. Go to YouTube and watch it anyways. Well, I cannot thank you enough, Miss Rebecca, for taking some time out of your day to come down and share a little bit about your journey and then a lot of it about what kind of big impact you're having on our community out there. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for having me here. And I hope that you come out to one of our events sometime. We'll absolutely do it. 100%. For sure. You can count on it. All right. I just got to make sure I'm keeping up with stuff, but I will be there. All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in each and every week. I love you guys. Continue to come back. I'm going to ask you right now, go to my website, motivatewithcoachcamp.com. Subscribe to my YouTube. And until next time, Coach Camp out. I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want, and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no, I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape,